Somewhere in the gap between what a person earns and what a person is capable of earning, an invisible law is at work. Most people never see it. They blame the economy, blame their boss, blame bad luck, blame timing, anything but the real cause sitting quietly beneath the surface of their results. Bob Proctor spent over 40 years studying that gap, and what he discovered changed the way thousands of people thought about money forever. He didn't find a hack. He didn't find a trick. He found a law, a principle as exact and unbending as gravity, operating in every bank account, every paycheck, every business deal on the planet, whether anyone believed in it or not. This law doesn't care about effort. It doesn't reward hustle for hustle's sake. It responds to something deeper, something most people have never been taught to manage: the vibration of their own thinking. Proctor would often stand in front of a room and ask a simple question: why do two people with the same education, the same opportunities, even the same skill set, end up with wildly different incomes? The answer, he insisted, was never about the outer world. It was about an inner blueprint, etched into the subconscious mind long before either person ever earned a dollar, quietly dictating how much money they would allow themselves to keep, grow, and attract. That blueprint is governed by a law most people have never heard named out loud, let alone learn to work with on purpose. It has been running in the background of every financial decision a person has ever made, and it is running right now, in this very moment, shaping what happens next. This is the story of that law, and how Bob Proctor taught people to finally see it, understand it, and use it to change their income for good. Welcome back to Teachings of Bob Proctor. If you've spent any time in this community, you already know that Bob Proctor wasn't interested in shortcuts, hype, or empty motivation. He was a teacher of universal laws, principles that govern outcomes whether a person understands them or not. And among everything he taught about success, leadership, and personal growth, nothing generated more breakthroughs, or more frustration when ignored, than what he called the hidden law that controls income. Proctor's own journey started from nearly nothing. A high school dropout working as a firefighter, deeply in debt, with no clear path forward, until a chance encounter with the philosophy of Napoleon Hill and the mentorship of Earl Nightingale introduced him to ideas that would eventually make him one of the most respected teachers of human potential in the world. He didn't get there by working harder than everyone else. He got there by understanding a law that most people never even consider when they think about money: the law of vibration and its direct, inseparable relationship with the paradigm running quietly in the subconscious mind. In this video, we're going to unpack exactly what that law is, why it has more influence over your bank account than your resume, your work ethic, or your education ever will, and, most importantly, how Bob Proctor taught people to actually shift it. Across the next 7 chapters, you'll discover what the hidden law actually is and how it operates beneath conscious awareness. You'll learn why your current income is not a measure of your worth or your effort, but a precise reflection of a paradigm you may have never consciously chosen. You'll see how thoughts function as causes and income as an effect, why your self-image quietly sets a ceiling on what you can earn, and how vibration and frequency determine what kind of financial opportunities are drawn into your life. Then we'll move into the practical side: how to interrupt and rewrite the paradigm that's been running the show, and the daily practices Proctor recommended for raising your financial vibration permanently. This isn't theory for theory's sake. Every idea in this video comes directly from principles Bob Proctor taught for decades, principles he proved out not just in his own life, but in the lives of the thousands of people he personally coached. Let's get into it. What the hidden law actually is. Bob Proctor often said most people go their entire lives reacting to results without ever questioning the law producing those results, and income is the clearest example of this blindness in action. The hidden law he taught is the law of vibration, the principle that everything in the universe, including thought, exists in a state of motion and emits a frequency, whether visible to the eye or not. Every thought a person thinks carries its own vibration, and according to this law, that vibration goes out and attracts circumstances, people, and opportunities that match it, including financial ones. This is not mysticism to Proctor. He framed it as physics, pointing to the fact that everything physical, down to the smallest particle, is in constant vibratory motion, money and matter included. Income, in this view, is never random. It is the visible result of an invisible vibration that has been running consistently, often for years, inside a person's dominant thinking. Most people assume external effort, more hours, more hustle, is what changes income, but Proctor taught that without a shift in vibration, increased effort just reproduces the same results faster. This law explains why two people can attend the same seminar, read the same book, and follow the same advice, yet produce completely different financial outcomes. Over time, the law doesn't ask permission and doesn't pause for belief. It operates whether a person is aware of it or not, which is exactly why Proctor called it hidden, not because it's secret, but because it's unseen. Once a person becomes aware that income is governed by vibration rather than by effort alone, the entire conversation about money changes from "how do I work harder" to "what am I vibrating?" The remaining chapters build directly on this foundation, because nothing else Proctor taught about income makes sense until this first law is fully understood and accepted. Your paradigm, the income blueprint you never chose. A paradigm, as Proctor defined it, is a multitude of habitual thoughts held in the subconscious mind, formed mostly before the age of 7 and reinforced ever since by repetition. This paradigm acts like a thermostat for income, quietly regulating how much money a person feels comfortable earning, keeping, saving, or charging for their work. Most financial paradigms were inherited, not chosen. Absorbed from parents' attitudes about money, the language used around scarcity or wealth at the dinner table, and the financial results witnessed in childhood. Person can consciously want more money, set goals, and work intensely, yet their paradigm, operating below conscious awareness, will quietly sabotage the desire if it conflicts with the old programming. Proctor used the analogy of a ship's rudder. The conscious mind may set the destination, but the paradigm, like the rudder, determines whether the ship actually arrives there. This is why so many people experience a pattern of getting close to a financial breakthrough and then unconsciously retreating, losing money, sabotaging a deal, or avoiding an opportunity that would stretch their current paradigm. The paradigm doesn't just affect how much money comes in, it governs spending habits, debt patterns, and even how a person feels when money arrives, whether with ease or guilt. Crucially, Proctor taught that a paradigm is not identity, it's a program. And any program that was learned can be unlearned and replaced with deliberate, repeated effort. Recognizing the paradigm is the first act of power, because nothing changes about income until a person stops blaming circumstances and starts examining the invisible blueprint producing those circumstances. The hidden law of vibration and the paradigm work together. The paradigm sets the dominant thought pattern, and vibration carries that pattern out into the world as lived financial results. Thoughts are causes, income is the effect. Bob Proctor leaned heavily on the law of cause and effect, often summarized as thoughts are causes, conditions are effects, applying it directly to financial outcomes. Under this law, a bank balance is never a starting point for analysis. It is an effect, and chasing effects without addressing the cause behind them produces only temporary or unstable change. This explains why lottery winners and people who suddenly receive large windfalls often return to their previous financial state within a few years. The cause, their paradigm, never changed. Proctor pointed out that most people try to change effects directly, cutting expenses, switching jobs, chasing new income streams, while leaving the actual thought patterns producing the old results completely untouched. Real, lasting financial change requires working backward from the effect to the cause, identifying the dominant thoughts and beliefs that have been quietly producing the current income level. This is uncomfortable because it removes the option of blaming the economy, the boss, the industry, or bad timing, and places responsibility squarely on internal thought patterns instead. Proctor framed this not as guilt but as liberation. If thought is the cause, then anyone, regardless of background, has direct access to the lever that produces financial change. He often reminded audiences that the law works the same way for everyone, rich or poor, which means the law itself is not unfair, only the application of it differs from person to person. Changing the cause means consistently choosing new thoughts on purpose, long enough and intensely enough that they displace the old, automatic thoughts running the current financial paradigm. Once cause is addressed, the effect, income, doesn't need to be forced. It follows naturally, because conditions always eventually catch up to the thinking that's actually producing them. The self-image ceiling. Proctor taught that no person can permanently outperform their own self-image, and income is one of the most sensitive indicators of where that self-image currently sits. Self-image is the private picture a person carries of who they are, what they deserve, and what they're capable of, and it acts as an invisible ceiling on financial results. A person can land a higher-paying opportunity, but if it doesn't match their self-image, they will often unconsciously sabotage it, undercharge, overspend, or simply quit before it stabilizes. This explains the common experience of skilled, talented people who consistently under-earn relative to their ability, while less skilled people with a stronger self-image often out-earn them. Self-image isn't fixed by talent or results alone. It's shaped by repeated self-talk, the company a person keeps, and the evidence they choose to notice and remember about themselves. Proctor often pointed to confident people who seem to fail their way up, landing on their feet after setbacks, simply because their self-image never accepted failure as a permanent identity. Raising income permanently, in this model, requires raising self-image first, because income will always find its way back to whatever level the self-image believes is appropriate. This is why sudden income jumps without inner work often feel unstable or undeserved, while income that follows genuine self-image growth tends to feel earned and sustainable. Proctor taught that self-image can be deliberately reconstructed through repeated affirmation, visualization, and surrounding oneself with people who reflect the higher identity back, reinforcing the new picture. The self-image ceiling is not permanent, but it is invisible, which is exactly why so many people hit the same income plateau again and again without understanding why. Vibration, frequency, and what you attract. Proctor frequently described the mind as a kind of transmitting and receiving station, broadcasting a vibration through dominant thought and simultaneously attracting matching circumstances back. Financial opportunities, according to this law, are not distributed randomly. They move toward the frequency that a person's habitual thinking and feeling are already emitting. A person dominated by thoughts of scarcity, fear, or lack broadcasts that frequency outward, and the law responds by delivering more situations that confirm and reinforce that same scarcity. Conversely, someone whose dominant thought is genuinely rooted in abundance, possibility, and value creation tends to notice and attract opportunities that a fear-based mind would simply overlook. Proctor was careful to note this isn't passive wishing. Vibration is shaped by the consistency and intensity of thought, repeated until it becomes the automatic default frequency of the mind. Emotion plays a major role here, because feeling intensifies vibration. A thought held with strong emotional charge, positive or negative, vibrates and attracts more powerfully than a passive, unfelt thought. This is why simply saying affirmations without genuine feeling behind them rarely produces results. The words may be positive, but the underlying vibration remains tied to old, doubtful feelings. Proctor taught that raising financial vibration means deliberately practicing the feeling of already having achieved the next level of income, well before the bank account reflects it. People around a person can sense this vibration as confidence, ease, or certainty, and they respond to it, which is part of why vibration shows up directly in negotiations, sales, and opportunities. The law of vibration doesn't reward intention alone, it rewards the consistent frequency a person actually lives in day after day, which is why repetition and emotional alignment matter more than one-time effort. Breaking the law's grip. How to shift your paradigm. Proctor was clear that awareness alone doesn't change a paradigm. It must be deliberately and repeatedly interrupted, then replaced through consistent, structured mental practice. The first practical step he taught was identifying the specific limiting beliefs about money currently running in the background, naming them precisely instead of leaving them vague. Once named, those beliefs need to be challenged with evidence and logic, since most financial paradigms were formed in childhood, before the mind had the capacity to evaluate them critically. Proctor strongly advocated writing a new, specific paradigm statement, a clear, present-tense affirmation describing the income level and financial identity the person intends to grow into. That new statement must be repeated with feeling, multiple times daily, because repetition combined with emotional intensity is what eventually moves an idea from the conscious mind into the subconscious. Visualization played a major role in his teaching. Mentally rehearsing the new financial reality in vivid detail, engaging as many senses as possible, to make it feel real before it is real. Proctor also taught the importance of controlling input. What a person reads, watches, and listens to either reinforces the old paradigm or strengthens the new one being built. Action matters too, but only after the inner shift is underway. Taking bold, paradigm-stretching action while the old beliefs are still dominant usually leads to unconscious self-sabotage. He encouraged tracking small wins and shifts in behavior as proof the paradigm is moving, since the subconscious responds to evidence more than to wishful thinking alone. This process isn't instant. Proctor often said it takes weeks of consistent repetition before a new paradigm becomes the dominant, automatic pattern running the show. Living the law. Daily practices that raise your financial vibration. Proctor built his own daily life around non-negotiable practices, treating them with the same seriousness most people reserve for physical exercise, because he viewed the mind as something to be trained. Morning and evening review of written goals was central to his routine. Reading them aloud with feeling to keep the subconscious continually exposed to the desired financial paradigm. He practiced deliberate visualization sessions, spending focused minutes each day mentally living inside the income level and lifestyle he was working toward, engaging emotion as well as imagination. Gratitude played a surprisingly large role in his teaching, since appreciating current resources, however modest, raises vibration immediately, while resentment about lack only reinforces the lack. Proctor recommended guarding the first and last 20 minutes of the day carefully, protecting them from negative news or draining input that would otherwise set a low vibration for hours, he encouraged. Regularly reviewing and refining self-talk, catching limiting phrases about money the moment they were spoken or thought, and immediately replacing them with a new paradigm statement. Surrounding oneself with people who already operate at the income level or mindset being pursued was another deliberate practice, since environment continuously reinforces vibration whether consciously chosen or not. Reading materials aligned with the new paradigm daily, even for just a few minutes, kept the conscious mind continually feeding fresh, aligned information into the subconscious. Proctor also taught the discipline of taking at least one small, paradigm-stretching action daily, proving to the subconscious through real behavior that the new identity was already underway. None of these practices work in isolation. Together, repeated daily without exception, they form the consistent vibration that the hidden law responds to. And that response, over time, becomes income. The hidden law that controls income was never hidden because it wanted to stay secret. It stayed hidden simply because almost no one was ever taught to look for it. Bob Proctor spent decades pulling that law into the light, showing that money is never the product of luck, timing, or even raw effort alone, but the direct, measurable result of a paradigm vibrating consistently beneath conscious awareness. Once that law is understood, blame loses its grip, and responsibility, real, empowering responsibility, takes its place. What makes this teaching so valuable is that it puts the lever for change back into the hands of the person holding it. No one needs permission to examine their paradigm, rewrite their self-image, or raise the vibration of their daily thinking. Proctor proved, through his own transformation from a struggling firefighter to a globally respected teacher, that the law responds the same way to everyone who learns to work with it deliberately, with repetition, feeling, and patience. The starting income, the starting circumstances, even the starting beliefs, were never the real obstacle. The paradigm was, and the paradigm can change. If this video helped you see your own financial paradigm a little more clearly, consider this the beginning, not the end. Go back through the chapters, identify the one law concept that hit closest to home, and start applying it today, not someday. Subscribe to Teachings of Bob Proctor for more lessons drawn directly from his life's work. Share this video with someone still blaming circumstances instead of examining cause, and leave a comment with the paradigm shift you're committing to this week. The law is already working. The only question is which direction you're about to point it.